the Book of Arkmer, who is an elf. And so your general is Ular, depending on how you pronounce it. Elf, unique hero, wizard, tricky, medium 5. Has 3 life, 5 spaces, move, 5 spaces range, attack of 4, defense 2. And Vaultnurse 336 says, I do like weak support elf heroes. Defense of 2, yeah, a little weak defense, but 50 points. So your special ability is, when defending with Arkmer, add as many defense dice as the number of elves you control adjacent to Arkmer. An engagement strike 13. If an opponent's small or medium figure moves adjacent to Arkmer, roll the 20-sided die. If you roll a 13 or higher, the opponent's figure receives 1 wound. Figures may be targeted only as they move into the engagement with Arkmer. I'm spelling that right. So, what are our thoughts about this? Because I know, I think from my study of the elves or the elves miniatures in Heroscape, they tend to go together. They don't really usually bond with others. Is my assessment? Is that pretty much true when it comes to that assessment?
It's not really bonding necessarily, but you've got Garenex, which
wizards, yeah.
you put your order markers on Garenex, and then he can take a turn with 2 elf wizards. Is that what it is?
Yep. Up to 2.
Pull Garenex over here. Yeah. Mind Link. Instead of taking a turn with Garenex, you may take a turn with up to 2 different elf wizards you control.
And Arkmer is an elf wizard.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going to build your elf wizard build, you want to add him. I mean, for 50 points, he hits pretty hard. For a 50-point hero, an attack of 4 from height, obviously, attack of 5, range 5. I mean, 5 range isn't great, but it's better than 1 range. And staff of however you say that word.
Lurkington
is pretty nice. It's a little bit of an anti-melee, and then obviously his bonus of +2 defense, plus 1 defense per elf next to him, really helps him,
defend himself.
Like Warrior of Ashra build, or like even Arkmer plus Quintella Gwyn here for 70 points is a nice little combo, because that puts him up to 4 defense. It's a little bit of order marker intensive if you're trying to move Quintella up with him. So, but a lot of times, like in the reverse the whip armies, Paul and I have been testing for EscapeCon. I have an Arkmer Quintella Gwyn, I think in 1 or 2 of them.
Okay.
So it's about like just kind of maybe putting him as a roadblock at a spot, and then spin an order marker on Quintella Gwyn. It's my favorite thing to do, because I like to I put a lot of emphasis on development when I play Heroscape, and to me it's kind of like taking a turn off to do that. But he's not a bad figure. I mean, in 2010, for day 2 of Gen Con, my opponent, it was a reinforcement roll. My opponent knew I was playing a bunch of knights, so he picked Arkmer for his reinforcement roll, and he got his engagement strike off 4 times and killed 4 of my knights.
Oh, wow.
I ended up losing that game. So, I mean, yeah, for 50 points, I think Arkmer is a very, very solid hero. I mean, you got a little bit of the Scottie Pippen syndrome with Meeberg Saab being there for 50 points, and the Mara Warriors being there for 50 points. But obviously, thematically,
if you're not running elves.
Correct. Actually, even if you're running 5 squads, like let's say you're running 4 squads of Warriors Ashra for 50 points, maybe Meeberg Saab is still better. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I guess I'm thinking if you're not running elf wizards.
Sure. Right. For an elf wizard build, I think you always want to put Arkmer in there for 50 points. He hits pretty hard.
He's good at the front of the pack, obviously, with his engagement strike, 13.
Yeah, he's pretty fragile. 3 life, 2 defense. Can fall pretty easily.
But again, he's engaged to Quintella Gwyn. But Quintella Gwyn, that's automatically 4 defense right there, because he gets a bonus being engaged to her, and she gives him 1 more.
Adjacent.
Adjacent.
Now, I have some questions in the chat. Thank you, Vaultnurse, for commenting. I guess, talking about ugliness. I always say ugliness, but Uganesh, I think.
Uganesh.
Yeah. That's the hero on the Pegasus. Is that true?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
And
I think engaging with strike 13, that's better than both the greater ice elemental, unless he's on snow or whatever, and then the Nikita agents. So.
Yeah, no, it's those are two very good abilities for like defense as well as attack. And Voltners also asks, Gwen is the defense aura elf, correct?
Correct. She gives +1 defense to all adjacent or elf wizards.
No, elves.
Just that, yeah. All friendly elves adjacent to her at +1 to defense.
Okay. Now, my question would be too, for someone who's just getting started with Heroscape and is looking to find specific armies they like, and if they like elves, and it comes to like purchasing or trying to find ways to purchase different miniatures, even if they favor elves over like you said, Maro, like a Maro army, what do you think would be like the cheaper, better option?
Cheaper like price wise, or cheaper like army building wise?
I'd say both. Like I mean the cost for money, and as well as points.
Paul will be a better expert on how much Heroscape costs nowadays. I haven't really purchased Heroscape in a long time, so.
I was just gonna Google. So a bunch of the elves come together in one pack. I think there's 5 of them in there: Olganesh, Arkmer, Jordan, and Junk. What's it? Emerald. They come together in one pack. These aren't terribly expensive since it's an all unique hero pack. So they're not going to go for terribly high. You really kind of want, who isn't included, Chartis?
Yeah, I don't think you need Chart. I don't want to have a trail too much, but if you're going to make an elf wizard army, you really need Raylan.
Sure.
That's one of the few times. I'm not a huge Raylan fan, but elf wizards and Mohicans are the 2 times I would say you need to play Raylan.
Okay. Gotcha. Now let me just dive into the lore, because there is a little bit of a character bio here on Heroscapers. It says, it's a Heroscape character bio. The Order is of one mind. Power freely flows from one into the other as they lend their strength to each other's magic. Such strength now surges through Arkmer's body and into his staff. The ancient magic of Lurkinton stored their pulses outward in waves. The wolves dive forward, biting and slashing, but their attacks fall flat against the power of the Lurkinton. Arkmer cuts the charging wolves down one by one as they approach. Jordan and her father Chardris rain fire down among the advancing wolves. An inferno ignites around them. It is not enough. The wolves are endless in number, and even more troublesome, they don't seem to be dying. The elves slash and stab with swords and spells, but there is no blood. No feral cries of pain. Their swords and their magic meet with only air. Their attackers vanish before the killing blows can land. Some strange new magic is at work here. And I know if Jeremy were here, I'm sure he would explain this a little bit better, and he probably will in future segments when we talk more about, because there's more elves to talk about here. But I think that is a sequence of events that happen before they're taken to Valhalla.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Is that talking about the wolves of Bedrew or the werewolves? The Nubian wolves.
Yeah, I think it's the Nubian wolves. Yeah.
Nubian wolves. Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just Googled the elves on eBay. You can get a new one box, which I showed for 66 basically with shipping. Is the lowest for all 5 of them, but not terrible for a new one box anymore, but still up there a little bit for 5 figures.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, if I'd say let's see here, if elves are your favorite army and you're just getting Heroscape and you want something that you'd want to take to a tournament too, rather than just your common Mar army. I mean, Maras are fine. There's lots to do with them. But if you want to do something like this, if you want to spend a little bit, I mean, their points value for building an army, I think is fair, right? Is it fair also on Delta points as well?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'd have to look up the chart.
Right.
I mean, the problem with the elf wizards is the problem with the elves is you got the elf wizards, you've got the warriors of Ashra, who are good in the right circumstance. Whether that be like warriors of Ashra are probably a pretty solid draft unit, right? Mm-hmm. But to bring into bringing blind into a tournament, a straight up tournament, it's kind of hard to know, because if you're playing against
range heavy armies,
5 squads of 4th mass and you have warriors of Ashra, it doesn't matter.
That's
and then
true.
the Aubrey and Archers are very luck based with the frenzy.
Yeah.
So the thing is, they don't have the elf wizards are out of the 3 of those in a regular tournament, not like a draft or some sort of feature where you're kind of picking armies based off of what your opponent picks. Like, the elf wizards are probably the strongest of those 3. And, they're not really that strong. Like, I mean, you're C+ level maybe at the most, maybe B-.
Okay.
So if you got like a B+ and under tournament or something, the elf wizards could definitely be worthwhile. But is Swarm of the Morrow Raylan? What grade is she? Do you remember? Because if it's B+ and under, then you can't have Raylan.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, yeah. So I think that's the problem with the elves. Really, is like,
okay,
they're pretty cool, and that's kind of it.
yeah, they're very thematic. It's fun to be able to. Generally, your 2 attackers, and again, not to dive too far into it, or I would say would generally be Chartis, because he's got a.
You won't pick Arkmer.
Well, I mean, range sick attack 2.
You want Arkmer? You want Arkmer over Chargers?
Okay, whatever.
You like Jordan because of the explosion?
Because the explosion. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, but those are figures you'll obviously get to
I mean,
eventually.
if you have room for both, sure. But you would pick, if you had to pick, you would pick Arkmer.
Sure, if you can only pick one.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
figuring if you.
Sure, if you have room for both, you go for both. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's like circumstantial Warriors of Ashra and Arkmer is actually pretty decent against melee armies. Like, he could be a good counter draft. In fact, he's in one of the Escape Con pools for the championship draft on Sunday. He's in the Jandar pool. Mike and I put him in there actually Mike put him in there for some reasons, and we kept him in there because it had some good synergies against the Knights and stuff. So.
Okay.
Okay,
fair enough. Well, we'll move on to another unit or another hero or unit or sorry, my mind, unit in a minute. But just to see combinations and synergies, like I said, it's just all elves: Aklara, Emeron, Gwyn, Uglinish. I always say Uglinish. I don't know. That's my brain. Chardris, Otanashi. I mean, Otanashi actually is one. That's kind of like a synergy, and there's also a few.
Tricky? They got a tricky.
Yeah,
synergy?
tricky. Yeah, tricky.
Oh, well, I mean, sure.
Yeah, tricky speed.
If you're really know you're losing the game. Like,
Okay.
Let's see here. And there's some synergy with like C3V as well. So just anybody who's interested in using this, I mean, it is a choice, and we might want to take a look. Just go to the books of Heroscape, check the miniature out, check its stats, see what it can link with, and see what you can build with it if that's what you want to choose. And so here, Vault Nurse, I know Vault Nurse has some comments here. Before we wrap this one up, Aubrey and Archers and Warriors of Ashra are good, expensive though. Yeah, most everything's going to be kind of expensive. I mentioned Sonlin and Vault Nurse. Cool, I love the lore. Yeah, we try and kind of mix the lore of the miniature, but as well as the gameplay of the miniature. That's what we try to do here in ToV Live.
Sonlin's not a wizard, so that's unfortunate. He's like an arc mage, or battle mage or something.
Yeah, so right. You can't use him with Olganesh, but he is a fantastic figure.
Yeah, yes.
A little expensive points wise,
I wouldn't
but
use the word fantastic.
He's a fun figure. I'll put it that way. You're rolling lots of D20s.
Yes, that's fun. I agree with that statement.
So it's one of those figures. He's great when he works, and you get your dragon healing and your dragon sloop, but he's also incredibly frustrating when you're not getting your D20 rolls.
For sure. And I'll have Vault Nurse close Arkmer out by saying I agree that the elves make up one of the best thematic armies. And yes, for sure. I mean, if you're looking for something thematic, if you're looking for something that's just, plain fun, yeah, look up Arkmer and the other elf wizards, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the other heroes, the other elf heroes and units in the future. All right.
Yeah, whenever I'm starting a new player, I like to give them like Aubrians and Arkmer because there's just they're kind of, like when they get to go again with Frenzy, they love that, and Arkmer's got some minor synergies there. Like a lot of that, I don't know, I think Arkmer is a good kind of figure for people to kind of learn the game with because the synergies aren't difficult to sort out and just give them a good feel for how Heroscape is played.